Does anybody have any questions? Not that that wasn't a lot.
One thing that came to mind, would it seem appropriate for someone, and I don't know who that person or persons should be, that could possibly attend some of the Oyster River public forums? Like, can we find out when they're having?
I'm sure I will. Well, I'm sure we'll be in close communication. Megan, people don't know, but Megan and Chet represent the board on that, and,
Okay.
and the two principals and myself. I think that was just the five of us, I think. The principal and assistant principal, I meant.
Because I think that there's another piece for me about the whole Oyster River concept that's missing is what their community is even thinking. Or,
Right.
you know, we have some very vocal people in our town that are
Right.
pro Oyster River, you know, but I have no concept of would they welcome it, would they not? I mean, Epping was
Right.
very definitive.
Right.
They put it on their thing and they voted it down and they didn't want anything to do with it. So
Even on the board, there was one board member who said, well, maybe that's not what we want to do. Maybe we want to think outside the box and have the size school that we would just have, and then use our space to do some other really creative educational things. So they're really divergent in their thinking. Yeah, and we need to stay in touch with them. Yeah.
Yeah, I watched the meeting, and of course the forums came up with them also, because in order for this to pass, I think the people should know that Madbury, Lee, and Durham have to vote this in.
Right.
If one of the communities votes no, then the thing is dead.
So it's not just Durham.
Right.
It has to be all of them.
By the
And
three-
same
the
thing
three
with Newmarket has to vote it in.
Right.
So forums are going to be very important. Not only there, it'll be here.
Right.
Also, I did watch percentage of that meeting, but I didn't stick through it to see you show up. I'm sorry to say.
That's why I cautioned people.
I was trying. I was like, come on.
Use
But-
that fast forward.
But yeah, but one of the things I'm wondering about, and I read, husband downloaded their advisory budget committee report, and so I was looking
Yes.
through that.
Right.
And it, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems to me that they have their own amount of life safety issues that they're facing at their school. And is that around their boilers? And, you know, I was just,
It
it's like
wasn't
$4 million.
clear in the
I
report, but that's a good point. I mean, I obviously didn't say everything, but they have fire and life, it had a familiar ring. They have fire and life safety issues. They, like us, it sounds like, have huge technology issues, and they were putting hundreds of thousands of dollars into their infrastructure. They, like us, realized that by 2015, all of the statewide testing, the Common Core testing, has to be done online, and you have to have an infrastructure to do that, and so that's coming soon. And so I forget what they had asked for. I think they had asked for like $600,000 a year for 2 years, and then cut this next one back maybe to $400,000, I think. But yeah, so it was interesting, and they have facility issues. They didn't talk about whether it was really at the high school. Might have been. I know the junior high does.
They have 4 schools, right? They have
They do.
different schools, yeah.
You know, they have an over-enrollment at one elementary and an under-enrollment at the other. And at the one with the over-enrollment, they've got portables, yet they have vacant classrooms in the other building. And,
Seems pretty.
but it's a real community struggle to
Right.
think,
The
wow, we're going to
balance.
now send kids
Yeah.
from this school to this
yeah.
school? And so that is a tough problem. So you know, life is not just cheery. You know, they have issues just like we do. You know?
Well, it just seemed, you know, I mean, nothing against them, but the whole, I think there's this, for me, what I'm hearing is that there's this great idea in the community. Let's send our kids from Newmarket in this horribly dilapidated building to this shiny, great place in Oyster River,
Right.
where they're going to have all this wonderful stuff. And yeah, they might have more, but they have their own issues too. And could it be that maybe they want our money for tuition to help pay for some of these life issues that they have? You know, I mean, like you said in your presentation, it's all about money for them.
Right.
It's all, which it should be. I mean,
For the
it
most
would
part,
be-
though, it's to preserve program. I don't think they've said it in terms of other operational
Yeah.
things. It's more to preserve program, and they mentioned, I think, the business ed department is probably this close to not having enough kids and being cut, and
Yeah.
I don't know what else, but they mentioned that.
Yeah, when I was at a meeting before you came here with Barrington and Durham, and one of the questions, I was here alone, one of the questions I asked them, I says, with student enrollment in certain classes, and I picked one class, which was the Advanced Placement U.S. History, and they had 9 in it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we may look at our low enrollments, but it's, from the numbers I heard last night, they're mid-teens.
Yeah.
They're mid-teens, 14, 15, it's not a whole lot. But so they, and I said, they need to bring classes up. They are, I think, passionate about small class sizes, which is a very good thing. And so that's part of their whole mindset of why they have that ceiling where it is. If you watch it, I would urge you to watch the presentation that students gave about their robotics program,
Yes.
which was just awesome. I liked it. And, I know ours is kind of more fledgling. Who knows? Maybe we can get there someday, but we're not where they are. That's for sure right now.
And just to piggyback on Kelly's comment, I think that one of your recommendations to have them present to the board and to our community is really essential, because there are certain schools that have good reputations and bad reputations, either right or wrong,
Right.
but there's also that internal reality of what really happens day to day in that building. And so those building issues, programmatic issues, I just think that's really, because we need, if that's the direction we're going in, to sell it to the parents of the students that will be attending, that this program that we're sending them to will benefit their child, and this is how it will do it.
Right, right.
I did have, may I ask a couple questions?
Sure.
Mr. Chair? One thing that was a little confusing, and I know they're just new in their discussions about this, but something that was a little contradictory. Why would they need to market themselves when they already have 3 communities? Other communities are shopping around, but we could certainly fill their building. I don't understand, what are they marketing for?
Well, here's how I took it. They asked if we were talking with any other district, and I said no. And I think they may have, in the back of their head, some worry that we're pushing it up to the ceiling. So they want to be concerned about the other people, the other communities that are
That might be
talking with them, might be smaller, move their class sizes up, but not hit the ceiling. And Deerfield clearly is shopping, I forget the other 2 high schools, but, Deerfield may be attractive to them. Barrington's already there. I don't know how long kids have been going to Barrington, from Barrington have been going there, but
3 years.
3 years, yeah.
It
But they're
started with 10.
Yes, they started with 10, and I think now maybe it's up around 50 or 60.
48 next year.
Yeah.
That's what they.
So Barrington's in the throes of figuring out its tuition agreement, but Barrington is courting them very aggressively, I know that.
Well,
You know-
I can add to that, Jim.
Yeah.
My thought on that process, because I heard that also, is the fact that these communities like Deerfield are going to have to sell that to their their
Right.
town.
Right.
And Oyster River should go in there and kind of exercise what their
Right.
programs are doing and how well they have been doing. I think that's my take on
Right.
it. So if they decide on Deerfield, then people should know what's really going on. They'll get it.
One of the things that, when you just spoke a moment ago, you kind of triggered something in my head that came out when I did the meetings with the kids. And this gets into the intangibles. We know what the tangibles can be, which are the courses and opportunities and so forth. But our kids really talked about the community pride, the school pride and community pride that is so strong and pervasive in our school. And they talked about going to games against Oyster River, and Oyster River kids coming up to us and saying, wow, how do you guys get this kind of excitement, generated from your school, because we don't get that, and so it's a, socially, maybe a different place, and we need to maybe inspect that too. So,
Yeah, that's important.
yeah.
So their timeline is definitely different than ours. There's long-range planning, and we have sort of an immediate need
Yeah.
to get information not only about programs and social aspects and arts, but also cost estimates. So how do we aggressively, maybe that's the wrong word, how do we pursue our needs in a timely manner so that we're not behind the 8 ball again? I just feel like we need to be respectful of their needs, not too aggressive where we turn them off. But I mean, we need to get this job done.
Right.
Yeah.
And yet, I know. And
Here are the other needs, you know.
Before I die.
and they-
Okay, this is
Chet, we
the
got
second time you said that.
I mean, I'm 80
Don't you
now,
say
pal.
that, Chet.
So
All right.
do you need to roll out like an estimate of things that need to be accomplished by when for
Like
the
a
school
timeline,
board?
yeah.
Like,
I think it's a good, I think, well, I'm not sure I understood exactly what you said then, but is that maybe something that we set when we meet with the Oyster River people to say, you know, give us a timeline here that we know, you know, set your schedule now, and, you know, if the decision point really is the ceiling, then
Yeah.
put together a game plan, how you're going to get to that decision and when will we know it? You know, I don't think that's an unreasonable expectation. That's what I would push for.
Have you got a time scheduled yet for when the committees will meet with Oyster River?
No, I hadn't. I expect it's going to be early January, but I'm going to send them an email and float some dates out there.
and again, just to say this, because I say this every time we talk about a tuition agreement, we don't have a voting voice at the board, at their board. So if we're tuitioning our kids.
Right, right.
We are tuitioning our kids.
And I didn't say that in my presentation, nor did I say that to their school board, but say it to their school board, but we have to have a conversation around a cooperative and see what,
Yes.
and see what their appetite is for that.
I mean, it was 10:30. It's not like you could launch into.
Well, it wasn't, yeah, you're right, I was,
Can't.
that's kind of.
Can't talk about everything.
No, and it would have opened up a whole other discussion that, I don't think they would have been even ready for that discussion at this point. Right now, it's really about partnership.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, what's it look like, so.
The one thing I got out of that, which is interesting, and I don't think people know it, but when they talked about the amount of births in the whole country, that New Hampshire was the lowest in the United States. I was a little
Yeah,
shocked by that.
if you watch, the people on their long-range planning committee are really adept at digging into the details.
Yeah.
And she talked about, you know, details in
Yeah.
the U.S. Census reports and all of that. And it presents a very convincing evidence that there's a real serious decline in the birth rate. You know, you heard earlier from the senator, you know, the population of 25 to 35, I mean, that's prime, you know.
That's birthing years.
That's your birthing
It
years.
showed the charts.
And they're not here.
Yeah,
She showed the
clearly.
charts and the data that shows it's declining. And, to Chet's point, they have birth rates for all 50 states. She must have got that out of the census. And of the 50 states, New Hampshire is the lowest.
Lowest.
And
New
the
England.
other next five lowest are the other 5 New England states.
Yeah.
We just.
That was
Don't
fascinating.
get
I
busy up
couldn't
here.
believe it.
I know, so.
So,
What are we doing wrong here?
I mean, come on.
One of the board members said, we gotta start doing something about this.
Right.
but yet our demographic projections show a slow but steady increase.
It does, and I told them that. You know, I'm aware that Epping says the same thing. They're showing a modest increase in their enrollments, too. But we're really the exception. The norm is declining enrollments. And in fact, a couple weeks ago, the commissioners meeting, the commissioner meets every month with all of the superintendents. The discussion point was declining enrollments.
Right.
What are we going to do about it? What are you doing about it? That kind of thing. So it's a big problem across the state.
Well, we got some work cut out for us, you know
Yeah,
that.
we should do. We should do. I got one other thing before we.
Well,
It's like, what have I been doing last?
Dan's going, oh, yeah. I know. Oh, boy. One other
you go
thing.
there.
Okay.
I've got a couple hopefully short questions and maybe
Right
we
ahead.
can.
Yep.
Getting back to the earlier part of your presentation regarding the solving the problem within our own
Right. The
four walls,
recommendation
as it
from
were.
that, yes.
Right. You spoke about making some modifications to our ed specs based on the building.
I want to review it and see what's there. And the example I gave to Dan when we talked about it the other day, in the initial ed specs, we had a distance learning classroom. And in this design, it's not in this building. I need to pull that out. But there really is no real, beyond things like that, little things like that, there's no real substantive change. The number of classrooms, the projected enrollments, the arguments for the kind of program that we want, those are all the same. But I know very well there's this distance learning piece that I know I have to get out, and my intention is just review it all and see if there's anything else there. If there's anything of substance, obviously I'm going to bring it back to you.
But there's some things that just didn't work into the
yeah, and I have
building
to
design
see how it worked into the design, and
for saving.
I think the design did a great deal. Dan, I think you could affirm that, right? Great deal of what was in the ed
There's
specs.
some areas where we're doing some double duty in some spaces, trying to save a little bit.
Yeah.
Remember, I believe there was a flex room that we thought could work out some of the program needs. I can't remember
I think
exactly. There's a couple of little areas that we tweaked those
Yes.
at the end.
Yeah, although I think what you're thinking of is the distance learning classroom, because that gave flexibility if need be. But yeah, so if you want, I'll bring a list back and I'll bring the,
Just a little concern, that kind of set a red light off.
Right.
You know, what are we throwing away here that
yeah,
at one point was important?
right.
The other question was, when you had the spreadsheet where you had the rolling 7% increases for the various school projects, you spoke to Exeter and $50 million, or at least that's what I heard.
Well, the article, yeah, here's the thing. The article in the newspaper said it was at 50 million.
Okay.
Now, when I did those numbers, again, let me reiterate, I said that was for the site and building costs. Those are considered the hard costs. The soft costs, and Dan can tell you more what they are not there. So for Exeter specifically, on the data that I had, Exeter is a school, their project was 330,000 square feet. And the cost for the hard cost, the site and building, was about 39.1. So their soft costs, if you believe the $50 million figure, and I have no reason not to believe it, then was another 11-ish
Which is
$1 million. And again, you're paying architects,
Technology.
you're doing fees, you got consultants that are working for you. I don't know, Dan, is FF&E considered soft costs? Or is that?
No, FF&E is soft costs.
See all your furniture, furnishings and things of that sort?
Approximately 20% of your project cost is considered the soft cost, your attorneys, your clerk of the works, or furnishings.
Yeah.
When people talk about numbers, you got to find out, is it total project cost? Because when you see something in the paper, it doesn't define that cost as building and site and soft. So you got to be careful, and that's where I pull a lot of numbers for Jim. And a lot of these schools, I was able to go back, and because some of them we did, and find out the exact building and site costs, excluding. So I use that as a measuring rule, because if you get into soft costs, everybody has a different reason why soft costs cost up and down. But building and site's kind of a universal number. That's, a brick is a brick is a brick. But soft costs can be, you have an unusual situation and you buy land. Another school district's building on an existing piece of land. There's a soft cost, for instance. So like Portsmouth built on their existing property. You're buying $1.3 million worth of property. That skews that total project cost immensely. And that square foot cost would not be easy to compare. Those are the type of things. So we always, when comparing projects, building a site on things you can compare reasonably well. Soft cost, you want to throw that to the side.
Well, sometimes people too, I notice there'll be a project that was like a phase project, and the first phase was 32 million, the second
Right.
phase, and they just grab one figure of one phase, and then they say, well, that's how much it costs. But the total cost, if you add all three phases together, is a lot more. So it is, you're right. I mean, you've got to make sure you know what number you're talking about.
So So Dan's data was good. It was the building in sight, and it really is much more of the apples-to-apples comparison.
Exactly.
Okay, thanks for that clarity.
Yeah.
So you gave us a,
Yeah, Dan, you want to come up? What I want to do is briefly talk about this preliminary application. Do you have a copy there?
No, but
Take mine, and you can I'll leave them through it.
before the moratorium, this was the typical form that was filled out before December 31st, before you went to your warrant. And it's a preliminary. It's not meant to be the cost, the design. It was to express to the legislation, again, with Ed Murdo being involved back then, that they would have an indicator how much monies they needed to bond. As you heard with the state representatives, they had to buy some bonds, but how much do you buy? So they had a mechanism of having this application, A24P, sent in by the 31st of December. Ed Murdo would bring it to the legislation and gather them all and says, you've got a potential of $42 million worth of bonds to purchase. So they stopped doing their budget. In March, the people who had submitted these things would happen a lot of ways. They didn't pass. They passed, but it increased in costs. It was a variety of things, but it was at least a measuring stick of an amount of money. So what this does is expresses first who the application is, what kind of school, what grade level. It also gave some general costing, and with the Department of Ed, they really have definitions on the costing of the building, of the site, of the soft costs. They have categories, and in this form, back on page 4, these I can fill out pretty quickly on what your prototype new school without auditorium but future, we could fill these blank. And all of these are very defined in the Department of Ed. So once this is filled out, it starts the process of what state aid would be given to the school district. For instance, the old method, off-site improvements they would not fund. Auditoriums, I believe they would allow a certain number of seats. Turf fields, you'd have to ask for a waiver. So there's a bunch of little things that I'm aware of and why this thing is structured, so they could start figuring out what kind of funding. So if you were a district that was 35% funding, there was only certain things they would fund and not fund, and it was a real good way for them to start figuring it out. As Jim was saying, there are some areas we don't know the answers, so to be determined, bond or notes. We have no idea. We're not even there yet, so put down a not to be determined. Now, because this is not the application being submitted because of the moratorium, what we're trying to do is put the state on notice that we're serious about doing something. And according to the Department of Ed's, not Department of, but the committee who reviewed the new funding mechanism is going to be based on need. We want to be upfront and saying, we have a need, here is our need, here's our package, here's a floor plan, here's our budgets, we have our act together, we're ready. If you were to lift the moratorium in March 2014, you wanted to raise some serious money to fix some schools in New Hampshire, we're ready. Because they don't want to fund something that's going to take 2 years before they're ready to go. They're going to want to fund something where they can actually make some dents in some of the school facilities here in New Hampshire. So we want to be proving to them that we want to be on top of the pile. That's really what we're trying to do. We're trying to set a tone. Also, the fire marshal sets a tone. Hey, we're still pursuing this. We're still actively moving forward. We're not stalling. We are serious. So we're trying to do two things: make the Department of Ed very aware that we're serious, and make the fire marshal aware that we're also very serious of trying to pursue a solution to the whole dilemma of renovation new. That's going in one direction, and also the state, when they have their formula, we're hoping to fare very well, and again, be very prepared that we've done all our homework. I mean, already a lot of projects, if they start from scratch, They've got a year of due diligence, and you've already done that. Your site, you've done geotech, you've done all your environmental impact. Those things take a lot of time, wetlands, so they're going to be a year and a half behind us just doing due diligence. So you're going to be well poised if they want to make an impact. This project would make an immediate impact because it would be in the ground very quickly, because a lot of stuff has been sorted out. So it's an application that will be replaced at some time, but it's the only one that exists. And I've talked to some resources at the Department of Ed, and they had said that's probably a good idea. At least it's of record. They have it when they talk about what's going on in the state. Oh, by the way, Newmarket has already made us aware that they're serious. They've already done this, and this. They got a plan. They got a budget. It's going to show the nature of being serious. It may totally change. It may be a different design, but you're going to be trying to secure a sum of money. So,
Is there a deadline date to submit?
yes, December 31st.
Have you sent this in yet?
We haven't yet because we were waiting, I guess, for some direction.
What I would do, unless you object, is work with Dan, get this completed. There's a place on there where I'm supposed to sign it, but by my signature, I'm affirming that there's board approval to do that. So I would, if you're of a mind that this is good, I'd bring it back to our meeting on the 20th, get your approval, sign it, submit it.
And this application would be, basically, would be following the recommendation of the Facilities Committee.
That's the project that would be described
Okay.
there. You still, as a board, need to
Okay, but.
accept their recommendation at some point.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Oh, go ahead.
if, I know if the if the community supports a new building project before the moratorium is lifted, no money is available from the state. But but that's
And
needs to be
that's-
an act of town meeting.
Right, and voting to construct, right? Yeah. Is that
Okay,
how I
so-
describe
You're
it?
voting a warrant to bond the entire project, per
Right.
se. You can
Right.
phase it within the bond, but you're voting to appropriate a sum of for construction thereof, including all engineering, architectural, all that stuff.
So filing this form would in no way
Doesn't violate that,
Um,
no.
restrict us.
Because
in that.
it's a moratorium. It's basically, we're doing it because we don't know what else to do to alert the state in a official manner.
Mhm.
And
We
that,
don't have an entity there to speak to, but if this goes to their address, at least we're of record, we've made them aware, which would have been like a normal year, that we made them aware that there's a project coming. Because if it failed in March, even if this was without the moratorium, they'd just take it and just file away. And that's probably what they're going to do, but the fact is, if they're going to start pursuing this, we're of record. We made them extremely aware with credible information of, we've done our due diligence, we've got budgets, we've got plans, we got a net spec. That's a tremendous amount of work ahead of anybody else that may be starting from scratch. And hopefully that puts us in front of, we're trying to put ourselves in front of the line when the rules are validated as, this is how we're going to fund you.
Mhm.
So we're trying to make sure that we're right there in front of them.
and the people should know that the moratorium goes to July of 2013.
Correct.
All right.
That's when the moratorium is supposed to be lifted, but that's happened already once where they've extended it. If you remember correctly,
Yep.
there was a one-year moratorium, and then when it came due, they did a two-year moratorium. Who knows what they're going to do?
Yes.
And such as the building committee here, they have an advisory committee who's making recommendation. It's on the web, in fact, if you go to the Department DOE website, under State Building Aid, there's a big red block, and there's a PowerPoint presentation of what their recommendation is to the legislation. And in there, it tells you the rules about they're not going to pay for SAUs anymore. These are all their recommendations. They're not going to pay for anything that's done until after July 31st, July 1st. And it's my understanding that if they're going to start accepting official application, it won't be till September, and then to start the process. And then that actually brings you, because you're a town, March 2014 is really when you pull the trigger on voting on something.
Yep.
That would be official and fundable. So all we're trying to do is make people aware of the state and the fire marshals that we're still here, we're still moving forward. We've got good supporting data why we're making certain decisions.
Kelly, I cut you off earlier.
No, I just wanted to reiterate, I think Jim said it in his presentation, but, you know, the desire for us to be first in line should not be misinterpreted to represent that this is the only option that we plan on pursuing as a school board, that we are doing the Oyster River thing, and, you know, it's just another step that we have to follow to kind of keep our hands in both pots, basically, to give ourselves as many options as
That's it.
we can.
It's allowing options to be, as you get more information, the options are going to start narrowing down. Right now, we had a lot of them. We've narrowed down quite a few.
Yeah.
And now we're narrowing down.
Yeah.
And it sounds like it's going to take another period of time to really digest and figure out the options.
Time's becoming a premium.
I can just see people saying, oh, they're applying for school building aid, it's
No.
a done deal, the school's gonna be built next
And
year,
I think
it's
there'll be a
over.
cover letter
Yeah.
to some degree saying, just to provide you with information and bring you up to date. I think something like that. This is
Something
no
like
way an official application, but we found no other means of communicating to you officially, and we felt this form was used in the past and articulates exactly the information you tend to want to know.
I think
Something of that nature.
It's interesting, Ed Murdo's email address is still on the form.
I know.
Roll forward.
Yep,
Well, I'm certainly in support of pursuing that.
yes.
Okay. All right, so I'll bring it back next meeting to be a completed version, and
We
we just
can
need to approve.
Support at that point officially.
Okay?
Excellent.
I'm gonna go home.
Hmm?
I'm gonna go home.
Oh, wait a
I
minute.
mean, I'm just making a suggestion.
Certainly fine with me.
I mean, I just-
While they have a little conversation, Emma, do you have a lot still to do tonight?
Oh, okay, all right, well,
Just such a
Well-
long, and we still have so much to talk about. I was looking at the time, looking at you, looking like you're a little tired. Oh, badly, so I didn't know if you needed, we didn't know if you needed to. I'm cool. Okay.
all right.
Okay.
You're in it for the long haul? All right. You're welcome to change your mind.
Yep.
All right. Okay, that offer does not extend to you, Linda, no. Nor the rest of you. Okay. So,
The warrant article.
to the warrant articles.
You have a draft. It's just been a working document of thoughts and ideas and comments that I've collected over months and said, okay, for the next warrant, we need to think about this and this. I put it together in warrant form, although I can tell you for each of these, it's not really the final language for certain. We need to get it checked with the attorney. I did present it to the Budget Committee, but more again as just, here are ideas we're thinking about, not things we've committed to. So, some of these are pretty easy. Article 1, obviously, is your operating budget. We can jump right over that, it's just fill in the blanks. Article 2 would be, that amount, that $706,907 is year 3 of our 4-year fire and life safety plan. So it reflects the same number that was in the plan to continue putting that in the dual-purpose fund. So maybe it's for fire and life safety, and maybe it's for building a new school. Article 3, and again, stop and talk on any of these, but Article 3 is that technology piece that we weaned away from the budget proposal. I'm not sure the language is right on this, but obviously the concept is. Any comment on that? All right, I'll keep going. Article 4, and this is what I was just talking with Dan about on the side here. Obviously, if it's a middle school, whatever, this is going to have to change, and we don't know what the number would be. That's why he's not even staying, because he wouldn't know where to begin to talk about it. But we need some funding source to continue the construction part of construction option that we are pursuing. Article 5 is assuming that we settle a collective bargaining agreement with teachers. It looks something like this. There's a breakout by year. You have to define each of the years of the agreement, even though some of it refers to future years. Article 6 is a companion article that if the article is defeated, it gives you the ability to call a special meeting to give it one more try. Article 7. Article 7, 8, and 9 are basically the typical surplus warrant articles that we had, not last year. I'm not sure if we even had it the year
We didn't do it
before.
last year.
I know we didn't do it last year, but there are two different concepts in here. We really should discuss this of what if we have a surplus? One is what we've done in the past, which is shown in 7, 8, and 9, putting it into, here I decided 3 capital funds because one of them I thought was in good shape. Expansion of school facilities, trying to jack that up as much as possible, so half of the surplus. The capital reserve fund for special education, and then the capital reserve fund for maintenance of facilities. Get the other 25 and 25%. So there's that. Then number 10 was another concept that you had about another capital reserve fund for energy. And then number 11 was this whole new thing that with the change in RSAs that now allows you to, I forget what they call it, but I keep calling it a rainy day fund, like what the town is able to do, to set aside up to 2.5% of the current fiscal year's net assets, and if there's any surplus, then to hold that into a fund like that that has a lot more flexibility, that helps you even out bumps along the road, just like our other capital reserve funds. So you got 3 concepts. Surplus as we did before. You got this new language for a 2.5% generalist kind of place to put your surplus money, and then you've got this energy fund. So you need to start, we're not making decisions tonight, but any thoughts about any preferences amongst all of that?
My gut instinct, when I first went through them, like I marked like what I thought I could, I just don't, I need to have my figures, and I don't have the trust fund numbers with me because we weren't talking about
Right,
budget, so I
right,
didn't bring it with
right.
me, but I would have to look at that, but I just, everything in me is saying we need to, whatever, if there is a surplus, God knows if we even have one, I just feel
Right.
like it needs to go back. I don't think we can keep, I know it's
To the
our way,
voters. Okay, yeah,
I know it's
obviously
our
that's your
way of
other option.
saving, but with everything else that we're asking for, and some of these that are totally necessary, I just feel like we needed like one more year where we just didn't do that. That's my
Yeah.
first gut. I would need to look at the numbers again to really make that
Yeah, and see
concrete.
where we are.
Did the facility.
Well, right, we know that.
So we know, you know, so we
I can
know.
bring that with me at the next meeting.
I have it, I just didn't
Okay.
think to bring it, because it kind of goes hand in
I'm working on
hand.
your format.
No, that's fine.
If we wanted to exclude any of these articles, because these were voted in by the voters, could we
What-
just exclude them, or we have to get voter approval
What
to
articles?
exclude them? The articles.
The
Uh,
trust fund ones?
Yeah, the trust funds.
We can include them or not include them, we don't have to.
But we can't exclude them, can we, totally?
You
We can-
you mean
any-
dissolve
Any
them?
given year, we can choose not to potentially fund.
But they will always be there.
It will,
The money that we have in it is still there.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
it would take, we would have to put a warrant article to,
Dissolve that,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because of, yeah.
right, to make that go away. Article 13 kind of plays into it as well, right? If we're going to have a surplus, it's more than likely going to be because of unanticipated revenues, because that's where our surpluses have been historically.
Can be, yeah.
So,
Could it just be the late night or something, but Art, could you explain Article 13 for me? I mean, maybe we jumped to, I'm just trying to like figure out what that unanticipated.
We already do this. Example, if we go out and we apply for a grant, you know, maybe we get a $200,000 grant to do STEM, science, technology, and whatever,
Oh, yeah.
okay? And we get the grant, and we spend it. you know, but it's a good thing to have voted recently on this language. It just kind of endorses your ability to spend that. Or if people, I mean, you know, the thing that I had in mind where if we start, as I mentioned before, if we start down the road of alternative strategies for building a building, funding a building, getting donations
We gotta
and doing
have that.
fundraisers is another thing. So I really kind of liked if I could really have clearly voted this in. That, Christine, do you have any experience with these?
I do not.
No? Okay.
I know in terms of Article 12.
Yeah, 12 or 13. 12 is more gifts of personal property other than cash, and 13 is more aimed at cash.
Like, for example, with Article 12, the board can accept up to a certain amount, and I think that dollar figure is $5,000. But we have to have, either on the town side or the school board side, accept this in order for us to receive gifts in excess of that amount. Okay,
Right.
so that's that would be why we're asking for Article 12. Article 13, again, you gave the perfect example of a grant that, well, grants we can typically expend. I can let me do a little digging for this one, and I can give you some clear examples of why we might need that one.
Article 12, I'll give you a clear example because I've been working on it. Some of you know that. I'm going to make another attempt to have the Durrell Woods property become a gift to the school district. And I'm just getting all my ducks in a row to make that attempt. And so if that were to happen, I want to have this voted in that says, yes, we can accept personal property other than cash.
If anyone's still watching, we're not going to be taking Durrell Woods away from anyone that lives there.
No.
That's not what we're talking about.
Oh, yeah, that's true, yes. We're
It's
going
a
to become
certain
real estate
portion of-
barons, yes,
Yeah,
we
no,
are.
You don't have to sell your house, you don't have to leave.
No, we, for years, out behind the elementary school.
What's
uh,
it called?
Well, the Durrell Woods neighborhood, when it got planning board approval, if I got this right, it was a little bit more denser, and in order to get the density of homes, they had to create open space. That was part of their neighborhood, if you will. In that open space area, prior to my coming here, there were efforts to get an easement.
Easement, that's what it
An
is.
easement to a portion of that so that we could maybe expand just for a athletic and play
Yeah,
area.
yeah.
Not to build on at all. And so when I came on board and efforts had stalled and what it came down to is that as an easement, we have insurance conflicts between owner and district that we're never going to come to agreement on. And so an easement wasn't going to happen. And so then conversations with the current owner and myself and somebody else who's been a liaison, turn, instead of an easement, make it a gift. It becomes the property of the school district, therefore there's no insurance issue. It's under our insurance policy. And so we've been stymied a little bit, and then I just put it on the back burner because I had too many issues dealing with. But then about a month or so, I resurrected and got people going to say, all right, let's put together our materials and be ready to seek approvals for that, because I think it's, for the future of that elementary school, it's really important.
Kids have no place to run and kick a ball.
Right, and if we ever do expand that school in the fashion we've already designed, we definitely need
Yeah.
that space. So it's a real benefit to the school and community, and I'm just going to try and make it happen again.
I
But
think-
so we need to be in a position to say, yep, we can accept that gift.
That's great.
You know, so.
Let me back up. Let me explain Article 13 and give you an example. We have town meeting in March, okay? So we project what our revenues are for the upcoming March meeting. We adopt our budget, and let's say, for example, I estimate that our grants are going to be $450,000. But for an example, it's slipping my mind, but the Ed Jobs grant, for example, say it comes in after the March meeting. you have to have this language in there to adopt that you have the rights to authorize an additional expenditure or additional revenues that were unanticipated that I didn't estimate at the March meeting. Because if you don't, then you don't have the authorization to spend. You don't have authorization to spend that. Okay. So that could be, grants. Medicaid is another one. Like this year, we returned, I think it was like over $30,000 because we estimated about 165. We got about 195. You don't have the authorization to spend that without this. So it really helps.
Gives us a little bit more.
Correct.
Yeah.
So have we been sending money back every year?
It goes to the fund balance.
Goes to the fund balance.
Goes to the fund balance.
So that,
And you use that to reduce taxes right now because we're not keeping it.
Okay.
So
or it could go to these capital reserve accounts.
yes,
If
it goes
those-
to your surplus and whatever you have for warrant articles, they can get divvied up in different pathways, such as a warrant article to put it into a capital reserve fund, or you put it into your fund balance and you reduce your taxes in the,
Driven by the reason, because we can't carry anything forward.
correct.
So you have to have other mechanisms in place to do that.
Correct. And the only mechanisms that we have is either to put it into capital reserve fund or to implement the 2.5%.
I see.
Okay, but it's happened to us. It happened to us last year with Medicaid, because you really try to estimate what you have for student population and what you're going to get, and you never want to go high, and then you have a shortfall. So we estimate the best that we can, but sometimes unanticipated revenues will come in, and this will allow you the authorization to have that to reap that benefit.
So we collect it, but we can't use it.
As of right now, without approving warrant Article 13.
Okay.
I think we should be sure to explain that to the community when we have our.
Oh, yeah, we will for
Oh, yeah.
all of these. Right.
So,
Right.
You have an appropriation, and that's all you can spend.
Yeah.
That's your cap. Like a school district, that's the most you can spend. So once you get that pot of money that's approved on your warrant article for your budget and any additional warrant articles that can be added to that, that's it. That's all you get to spend. You can't spend a
Now,
penny more than that.
Is it your understanding that this would have to be voted annually? I
No.
don't think so. I
No.
mean, I
My
remember doing
understanding-
some research.
It says
but-
authorizing indefinitely.
Yeah,
It
it
isn't
does.
until I think you
Right.
rescind it.
So
think you have to
I
have
think it's possible that way back when the law first was there, it may have been voted on then, but I went back through the annual reports for a while and never saw it, but it's possible it was voted at some point. But, so to me, it was good to do it current.
One could argue, though, that, as a taxpayer, if you get those unanticipated revenues, in my mind, expend those and give me my money back.
Right, right.
So,
There are some exceptions to that. There's very few, like impact fees. That's an exception. You have the authorization to expend those. So there are very, very few. But for the most part, what this is addressing is the grants, the Medicaid
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
we get from, that we,
I think I get it. The Article 12 and 13, I guess I have the same question, but I can get my head around Article 12 better, which is the one to accept gifts of personal property other than cash. Okay, we put that on the warrant. What if it fails?
I don't
That-
have that answer.
Then the way I think it might be is that we cannot accept gifts of personal property.
Yes.
But if we don't put it on there at all, then we could.
well, you can get gifts up to, I believe it's $5,000. You
I think
have the
I've allowed
authorization to accept.
5,000.
I mean,
But-
I would think that
You don't want to tie our hands, I guess.
No, I
You-
know,
I would think that an article like that would pass handily, but I'd want to know, for the sake of a good night's sleep, if nothing else, what it would mean if it was defeated. I know that, if you put specific, warrant articles in to hire someone for a particular task, and that's defeated, that you then cannot have that position. So if that analogy holds true to something like this,
but clearly, we're not going to accept gifts unless they truly benefit the district. We're not just, So hopefully people will see the wisdom of doing that.
Right.
Well, no, I get his point. I mean, I
know.
don't, I don't want to put it out there and then have it voted down and then.
No,
tie
I
our
realize
hands so
that.
we
But
can't
we have to
ever-
make sure we sell it well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
So it's just something to think
I'll
about.
talk with the attorney and
Yeah.
get their take on these. Article 14, the legislation has changed that now will allow the governing authority, I'll say that, to approve whether or not to put on the warrant estimated tax impact numbers. As you know, in the past, we have put it on the materials, supporting materials we give, but we don't put it on the warrant. For the town, that governing authority is the town council. I think I may be wrong,
They
but
voted.
I think they've already voted to
They voted to do
include
it, yeah.
to do it. But for you, it's not you, it's the voters of the school district. And so you can't do it on the warrant for this year, but you need to put this warrant on now to get their approval to do it in subsequent years.
And this is an important one that the Budget Committee really wants us to include, so
Oh, yeah. I think it's
That's
right.
fine.
It's
Do it.
necessary,
I don't
it's
have a
helpful.
problem.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Yeah, as long as people, what you have to really make sure voters understand is that it is an estimate. We've been pretty good about estimating, but it's not a guarantee that that is the final tax impact, you know.
We've, I think, I want to go a step further. We've done a tremendous job at predicting the tax impact
Yeah.
of various warrant articles and have done a very good job of publicizing it
Right,
in advance of the deliberative session and with
right.
all our
I don't think there've been any
documentation.
surprises.
And I think, yeah,
Yeah.
be very much wanting to see that on there.
Article 15, not sure the language is properly right, but that's your non-binding referendum relative to Oyster River Cooperative. Obviously, the 6 to 12 pieces would come out if we're only talking 9 to 12, but you need to decide as a board, do you want to put this on or not? And that's it.
Dr. Hayes, could Article 15, I'm sort of stuck on Article 15 because I find those in my mind very separate scenarios for the Oyster River potential. Like, I think people have strong opinions about the grades 9 through 12 or the grades 6 through 12, you know, whether
Well,
they.
grade 6
Well,
to 12 has
it's
to
not-
come out.
12
Yeah.
is not an
Oh,
option
gosh,
anymore.
okay,
6
sorry.
to
that's
12
right.
comes out.
Sorry.
Yep.
Yep,
Sorry.
It's late.
because they've
Yeah.
already, that much they've told us.
Okay, sorry about that. I was just focused on
Yep.
that and not
Yep.
thinking about prior discussions.
Yep.
I think it should be on.
It's a lot of
Any
work.
other, I know it's a lot of warrant. Any other questions or anything you think I may have missed? or-
Pretty
Going
extensive.
back to Article 14 again, Jim. In other words, we're looking to get voters' approval. We will put an estimate tax
Tax impact.
impact if we decide, let's say, to build a school.
Any warrant.
Any warrant.
But like,
On
just as an
any-
example, build a
Yeah.
school
On any.
or renovate the school or. do
So
it
your
that-
operating budget, you'd put it,
Yeah.
your warrant articles for
Right.
engineering, you know, when we did it for the sprinkler system.
Do you know when we go to deliberative session and he prepares all
Yeah.
those materials and we have it on there? This would enable it to actually be on the ballot.
So when you walk into
On
the
the warrant,
warrant.
on the warrant.
When you
So
go
they'll
into the.
vote on it.
When you go into the voting booth,
Ah,
you're gonna see that.
All right.
so people have wanted that and we keep
Yeah.
saying we can't because it's not legal, but now they've made it so we can.
Right. Because I was thinking, well, you do it anyway, you know, but this is gonna be something they'll vote on.
And this will be data that's right on the.
On the ballot.
Ballot that you
So they
vote
can
on.
make an informed vote about what their tax
So if somebody
impact
passes, so if they vote to pass the budget and they vote this down, what does that do?
Oh,
This is just informational.
Well, if
Or
they.
just informational?
It's additional
14?
information that would
It
be
won't-
listed on the
won't
warrant article.
Override any other warrant article?
Correct.
All right,
No.
all right.
Just how the warrant articles are written here, you'll then just see an additional line that will say tax impact, and it'll say
Right.
it's a 3 cent impact, it's a 5 cent, just so that you know that if you approve this, this is what your tax impact for just this article is.
I had it as something that would override it.
no.
Okay.
So each warrant article would have the text to see blah, 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 school board recommendation
Yep.
and the vote. and then of the school board, and then budget committee recommendation or not, and
Yeah,
their
that we
vote.
put on now.
And then it would say
impact.
the estimated
Tax
tax
impact.
impact of this would be so many dollars/cents per thousand.
Right.
Can we add further language there about for a $250,000 home, that would be blah, blah?
I don't think you put that on the ballot.
It would just be
Just the
per
tax
thousand.
impact per thousand, I think is probably what we
You
do.
put that on the ballot, then you get individuals popping
Yeah,
up and you
yeah,
never
right.
get on it.
It could get long.
Yes.
Yeah, I think, to me, the thing that is, we're heavy on is several alternatives for how we deal with the elusive fund or, budget
Right.
Surplus.
surplus.
Yeah. So that's the only thing that I heard here. We come back at our next meeting and with some firm idea of what we'd prefer.
So, do we have any opinions at this point, how to approach that? Go with the traditional surplus funding, include the energy one, change the ratios perhaps?
What the energy one would do, just so you kind of understand the justification, is it allows you to have less spikes within the budget process, okay? Because when we get into these volatile years, and we really can't estimate what our oil is going to be in the upcoming year, this would kind of just help level off the budgeting process so that we don't get spikes in the tax rate. So if we have those reserves, we can tap into it to smooth sail as much as possible.
And we've certainly seen pretty volatile energy prices, and the increase for just oil in the new budget is, you probably know the number. It's tens of thousands of dollars.
Asking me right now, I can't.
Oh.
Right.
I'm kind of like shutting down at the moment.
I hear you.
I know it's a lot.
Those flood
It's a
oyster
lot
river.
more than what I wanted it to be, but yeah, so those are the.
I can
Right.
tell you, these were presented to the Budget Committee the other night, just an FYI. And a couple of mumblings like, 16 warrant articles? So,
We
so
need-
I'd be
Yeah.
really interested to hear what the Budget Committee's feelings are on our surplus articles, to see, where they
Well,
are
I
too.
think- I assume that's why we present it to them,
Yeah.
so, yeah, get some input for us, I guess.
I'm sure
Yeah,
they
so
will,
it's an
I'm
input
sure
on
they
it.
will not withhold their opinion. They never have before.
I mean, just to throw it out there, I mean, I would be in support of surplus articles, just because I think that particularly around.
Into our current trust funds?
Yeah, sorry, jeez. I'm really tired, apparently. But Article 11, I guess I'll just need to, when I'm fresh tomorrow, just sort of try and figure that out. That one sits a little, like,
Yes.
seems a little, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I took the language as I
Right.
found it, and in typical legalese fashion, it's like, what?
Right, right.
You know?
Yeah, I
And I
struggled. sorry.
I know what you mean.
It would, I'm going to stop right now, I think. Yes.
I'm right there with you.
All right.
If we
We're getting
pursue
close.
the Article 11 approach, I'm going to need to be explained a little on what 2.5% of current fiscal year's net assets is.
We can do that. And I
Does
can come up with
does net
examples for
assets
you.
equal surplus?
Does what?
Net-
I didn't hear. I wasn't
Net
listening.
assets, does that mean surplus?
No.
That's your operating,
Yeah.
your operating budget, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it would come
It's
from
two.
surplus.
It's 2.5% of the net assets. That's what you can.
So-
It's like a cap. You're
Up
and you're
to-
capped. So, like, this is like if you put 2.5% and you max that out next year, if we have a surplus, my understanding, and I can get clarification next week, is
Unassigned child.
well, not next week, but I'll get clarification the next time we meet. We can discuss how that would work. But my understanding is that it's capped, and once you reach that cap, no more funds can go into that, and it would go to reduce the taxes.
So when you say net assets, are you saying total operating budget?
Correct.
Okay,
2.5%.
stick to that.
Right.
I don't know if I'm old school or whatever, but
Yes, you are.
I keep thinking of the elementary school, you know, we got stuff there that we should not just stop on. I think that people should understand that we got issues there. You know, like the windows, maybe we should be changing some of the windows.
I know.
You know, we can't just leave it. This bothers me because my home, they had issues like that. I used to budget for that and then do things, you know? But we haven't done anything over there for 20-something years until we did a little bit with the sprinklers and all that. But I think the windows are issues, that boiler is an issue. It's not saving us any money, that's for sure.
Resurrected capital
And,
improvements.
So you're saying
Some of this stuff, yeah,
Are you saying
So
the
those
warrant article that
warrant
the
articles
windows, or?
for capital reserves,
yeah.
or the direction you want to go?
Don't you agree with me? I don't think we should just say, oh, elementary, wait 10 years, in 10
Right.
years, it's going to maybe too late, we're tearing that down. I don't know, but I think we should keep that always in mind, of what you have, and keep it up to date. Budget for it. Maybe
In terms of this, is there anything you
I'm
want us
just
to
throwing it out there,
investigate?
Jim.
Yeah.
If we got some thought process of how we can use some of those funds through the trust or whatever, I think we should be looking at that and arguing with the people and telling them, we can't
Okay.
just stop. It's got to be done.
So, and I guess part of that is, what you're saying is, we shouldn't just be thinking about expansion of school facilities or building maintenance from the perspective of looking at our junior, senior high school building. We can't forget the elementary school has
Yes.
issues as
Okay.
well.
Yes,
Good
So, and
point.
even if all those problems are solved,
Yeah.
we still need money in these
Yeah.
accounts.
yes.
So, don't forget about them.
And even if we have to do some of the work next year at the elementary school, maybe there's some of those windows that can be changed. We've been wanting to change those windows for 10 years.
I know.
They're not as bad as these ones, but they're close.
But that's just
Good
an
point.
opinion I want to
It's a
throw
good
out to the
point.
board.
Thank you. Yeah.
So, did we give you enough feedback?
Yes.
Jen's got it all down. All right. On to correspondence then.
Yeah, I just gave you a copy of Martha Fuller Clark's letter asking to meet with you. I've got a couple reports that Tom Heavily just provided that gives some degree of information about our students, how they do as they move on to the college level. And I just share that for your information. No real salient points I want to call out.
One, go ahead.
I read through quite a bit of that, and I'll go through it again. But I still like to get some personal opinions from some of the students in terms of what is our product doing, you know, what's happening, where are you having a hard time, or, I don't know. I think that's something I'd like to
You know what,
have.
I'll tell you one anecdote I've got. My niece just went to Keene State. She's in a chemistry class, and she told me that all of the kids in there don't know what they're doing.
Well, that's what we want to hear.
And she's like one of the only ones
Yeah.
in her chemistry class that she's like doing great.
Yeah.
So that's just one little personal, like, they taught me, Fabiano taught me chemistry, and I was able to go to college, and so, I mean, but that's just one.
Yeah, but that's what we want to hear. We want to hear some of that stuff.
Yeah.
I think that we should have an expectation of our student rep to the school board that they come back every year for the next,
She's
And,
still awake over there.
and re-
And report around 10:30
Emma.
at night. and just-
You're graduating this year. You can start the alumni association because you gotta we gotta get one up and running.
Yeah.
A strong alumni association.
We do.
I don't think. we
All right.
wait till tomorrow.
Well, you can.
You've got
you
the
can
day.
graduate
They are.
first. You can graduate first, so you can be an official alum. You know.
Before we move away from that report, it's, I could get lost in looking at those graphs and numbers for a long time, but one thing that that I couldn't get from it was how we compare to other districts. I don't know if there's any way of, getting a state average.
No,
To
I don't know. It's a national clearinghouse, so it really just targets our kids, maybe against some nationals, but
But it'd be nice, to get some, so, it's
Yeah.
great, well, we're seeing an upward trend.
Yes,
But
right, that's what I got out of it.
Is it,
That for our
should it be
kids, we're seeing
steeper
upward trend.
of an upward trend, or,
Yeah.
you know, it's,
I'll ask. Yep.
but great stuff. I wish I printed it in color so I could see it more clearly. Or do what you do, is you look it on your screen.
Yeah. Okay.
Great Bay Community College, statistics.
Same, it's, you know, again, it's a much
Uh-huh.
smaller pool of
Yeah, I
kids.
saw
but
it,
it's-
yeah.
Put some data on performance. To me, the one that was most striking there is, as you can imagine, moving on to schools like that especially, some students have to do remedial work. You know, the trend looked to me like for Newmarket kids, with each year, the number that had to do that was less. So I was really happy to see that. The percentages dropped considerably over the 3 years.
Okay. Next, I guess we give Christine a shot on the modular building lease buyout piece. Or I guess that was last night's council meeting.
Done deal. Already wrote the memo to them today to sign the paperwork, and
And I sent it off.
You did an amazing job.
we didn't waste a minute.
Tuned in for that. and-
Excellent. And by doing so, we're saving
14.2 a
money.
year, right.
Awesome. And we have some savings this year as well, not
Right.
just going forward. Approximately about a
We
$4,000
just start our meetings with the
increase.
savings things and not wait till 10:30 when everyone's gone to sleep.
Well, some people, you know,
We'll turn
watch
this in
this
tomorrow.
online or what
Okay,
have
okay,
you.
that's true. All
So
right, I
So
give, that's
hopefully
fair.
they'll get it.
it's not only good
It's a
live.
good point. It's live.
All right. FY14 estimated revenues.
So I provided them, and give me a little feedback because I know it's late and I don't want to go too deep into this. Kind of give me some guidance. And please feel free to ask more questions if I don't go into too much detail here for you. But what I provided the board with is what the 2011-12 actuals are, so you have it. And again, like for the example of that Warren article, if you look at the Medicaid, which is kind of in the middle of the page, we actually received that $195,000. We were currently budgeting, well, I shouldn't say budgeting, but we were estimating our revenues to be $165,000. So we had to send back,
Give back $30,000.
give back, correct, that money, because we don't have the authorization to spend that without either the taxpayer authorizing that if we hold a public meeting, but we typically don't do that. We just put it back to surplus. So, and then 2012-13 column, that's what we're currently in. And in order to compare the our current year into next year's revenues, there's no warrant articles in here. This is strictly operating budget. So, and you can pretty much look, if you just look at the subtotals of the state sources, the federal sources, and the local sources, they're within a couple $1,000s. So the revenues are pretty consistent to what we're currently getting. And then, again, how I describe this, and I can do this in a couple different ways. At the bottom, you have your total non-tax revenues. The district assessment is the portion that we raise through taxation, but that's typically that's a revenue for the school district because we don't actually raise the taxes, the town does. We're a liability of the town. And then the state education taxes, which I thought was kind of interesting because they're going down next year by that about $65,000. So. And then the grand total revenues, this is the general fund, this includes your food service and your grants. And the reason why you do that is because you have to have the appropriation in order to spend that. So you show it there, but their grants and food service are a wash, if you will.
Very nice.
Does anybody have any questions? I know it's late, so if you do, feel free to email me or give me a call and we can discuss.
All right.
Thank you.
Do you have a question, Chet?
Now, can you explain the adequacy grant? What does this money go for?
That's money given to us. That's
I-
money that we receive from the state.
From the state?
Yes.
Correct.
It's their main funding mechanism for education.
Okay, for education?
Yeah.
Yep.
And the same thing in regards to the catastrophic,
Catastrophic aid.
yeah,
That's special ed.
Oh, that's, okay.
The catastrophic aid just makes it sound so,
Catastrophic.
yeah.
Sorry.
There's a
When you have an
formula.
out-of-district placement that costs six figures.
That's
It's a
catastrophic. All right,
catastrophe.
now it makes sense.
Yeah. And it's
That's
a
where
whole
it comes from.
percentage, and it gets really.
Not easy for anyone.
Right.
I'll leave it at that. It's late.
Okay. Just about late enough to start policies, don't you think?
Yes.
Sorry, Jen, that's you.
Something to wake us up, huh? You have two here for a first reading. They're all part of this same package I'm trying to get through that deals with instruction. The first one, IL, is purely a review. It's related. It's no change. And then IHBI is a brand-new policy and alternative learning plans. I've run this by the administration at the schools, and they don't have any issues with this. A lot of this stuff describes what we already do, but now it's being formalized in law and policy. Then you have, I think it's 4 that are second reading, so hopefully we'll get some votes of approval to move these along. Again, they're all based on laws and our administrative rules, and the New Hampshire School Board Association has framed the language for us. So you have IK, IKAA are both brand new. One's on earning of credit, the other one defines interdisciplinary credit. And then IMBA is a policy we already have. We've reviewed it. It still is valid. And same for IMBC, alternative credit options. It still is very valid for policy, law, and how we operate.
I will make a motion to approve policy IK, earning of credit, as presented.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? I've got some. I guess I'm not sure I understand why IMBC and IK shouldn't be just one policy.
Well, I don't disagree with you. These
It's kind of splitting hairs, dividing them the way they are.
but again, they're recommended as separate policies, not as combined.
Interdisciplinary is much different than earning of a credit, because it's earned through possibly building aids where you would do it not on a school day and still could get credit for it. Stuff like that.
I think but he's talking about combining IK
but he
with IMBC, not IKAA, or do they?
No, he meant all of them.
IK and IMBC.
Oh, I see.
So it's not the
IKAA? Is that what you said?
I don't think we can do this tonight, I really.
IK.
Okay, I'll back off.
IK?
And
And-
IK and IMBC are pretty
He's
much the same.
proposing they should
Oh, I
be
see what you're saying.
combined.
Oh, okay, the
They-
virtual and,
They're kind of the same thing to me.
Well, IMBC is specifically, IK is more your standard language, I think, for earning
Yeah.
credit, whereas IMBC, as Chet said, it's talking about alternative. The state has, in this past year in the legislation, and through the Department of Education, really encouraging alternative learning experiences as counting as valid, and they
Graduate.
validate them with credit. And, when we reported that, we do a lot. With our internships and our job shadowing, and that's part of our learning experience that we provide kids. And they want to be sure that districts have that flexibility to go outside of the traditional school day, traditional curriculum, and award credit for some, I don't know what. I mean, what pops into my head, I've had high schools where I have a nationally ranked figure skater goes all over the country to competitions. And so instead of doing phys ed, that's an alternative experience
Right.
that can't be matched. And so I think under this, you could give credit for things of that
Yeah.
sort.
As opposed, so that's an example of the IMBC. IK might be, maybe you are, your we offer French at the class, at the high school. And maybe your family speaks, and you can speak French fluently or something.
Right.
So you can prove
Right.
that you have mastered that
test out.
language.
Out of it.
So you test out of it and earn credit.
And schools throughout New Hampshire, and we're just like them, especially on the high school level, are moving towards even competency-based report cards. And if you can demonstrate the competency, then
Right.
you're there. So I think that's what this enables too.
That doesn't help me.
Doesn't help.
The figure skater,
You get that for alternative.
you get that for alternative, but it's also,
As opposed to taking phys ed, you're a figure skater, so you get a phys ed credit because you're you've got this alternate,
Skill.
this, it's almost like, your phys ed class is your skating, okay, so you get, your phys ed credit because you're taking skating lessons. As opposed to earning credit by proving mastery of the skill. You're not proving mastery of figure skating, but you're taking a figure skating class. You're not taking, instead of taking a phys ed class, you're taking a figure skating class. So it's an alternate class, as opposed
To meet the
to,
same requirement.
yeah, as opposed to, I speak fluent French, therefore I've mastered that skill, so I can get credit I can get a credit.
And I don't have to
For
take
a
that.
language
Like a
credit.
test out.
You test out of
Yeah.
it.
So-
Testing out of it.
so IMBC I don't have to test out of, but IK I do.
Yes.
Or-
Kinda.
Well, test is a very traditional word. You
Yeah.
have to
Right.
demonstrate competency
Yeah.
in some
Right.
way.
Okay.
Do the students who, let's say, are on a basketball team, they're not taking phys ed, are they?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they
do.
should
They
be.
still taking phys ed?
Oh, I think so.
What do we, it's a 1 year,
Well,
right?
phys
They
ed,
need a 1 year.
you know, not to spend a lot of time, but phys ed has really changed, certainly from my day.
Yeah.
My day, it was all about, team sports and, I can't remember the last time I played the soccer that I played in high school. But it's much more about activities for
Personal
personal
fitness.
development and personal growth, personal fitness. Develop a plan that can be for life. And so it's changed a lot. I mean, they still do individual and team sports, but there really is much more the emphasis on personal development and healthy living for adult life.
Yeah, it used to be back in the day, when you were required to take phys ed all 4 years of your high school career, that if you were on a varsity team, you could opt out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
right.
but now phys ed, isn't a 4-year required class. It's I think
What,
it's
2
a
semesters or?
Yeah, 2 semester. Is that what it is?
I don't
Yes,
remember.
So,
So it is possible, though, that you could, just like like French or displaying competency in technology or what have you, you could test out of PE or IT and me or
Right,
Yeah.
right.
what have you. And we just need to figure out how,
Yeah, I mean, I had a school system once where we assessed kids at the end of 8th grade as to their computer literacy skill set. And that assessment actually was done over the grades 6, 7, and 8. But at the end of 8th grade, you say, okay, do you have all the requisite skills? And if you do, then you don't take the 9th grade computer literacy course. You can just leapfrog beyond that and, in effect, get credit for it. So.
okay, so was it IK that is the motion on the floor?
Yes.
Is there any further discussion on the motion to approve policy IK? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I'll make a motion to approve policy IKAA, interdisciplinary credit, as presented.
I'll second that.
Discussion on this one? High school students may earn course credit in one content area. Can you provide an example that doesn't involve ice skating?
Where are we? Which one are we on? They earn course credit in one content
Oh,
area.
bed making.
By graduation.
Pillow fluffing.
Credit in a different content area. Sure. I mean, I can remember in a high school, we developed a humanities course, which was jointly taught by English and social studies teachers. Is that going to serve as your English credit, your social studies credit?
That's right.
Okay.
And there's also math and physics, advanced math and physics.
Right,
Taught
right.
that way.
Yeah. So it's generally marriage of two disciplines, and do you give credit in both? That's interdisciplinary. So, yeah.
Got it.
Okay.
No one else has any comments? Really milking these policies tonight.
How long do you want this
I want to go home tonight.
Set a record.
Is your night
here.
out? What is it?
Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. IMBA.
Keep going.
Imba.
There you go.
I'll make a motion to approve policy IMBA, online virtual education, as presented.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
And
motion
I will
carries
make I'll make a motion to approve policy IMBC, alternative credit options, as presented.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? I already made my points. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Resignations or other leave requests.
You have one resignation seeking your approval for Dan Seuss, who has left us as Technology Operations Manager. I will say, you notice the date and then the effective date of his leaving. I had already known for some time that he was investigating opportunities in North Carolina, and when one finally came along and he wanted to make a move, I said, okay, and we'll work with tech support in other ways. I will, before you ask, I will answer that I have been in conversations both with the town administrator, with the town's finance director, and with the tech support person for the town to see if there's a way that we can combine functions. And I had a meeting on that today. We're still talking about it. We haven't got it ironed out. Maybe next week. But I will say that the fellow who does the work for the town has already, regardless of how that turns out, has been a real help to us in this time period. He's been working at SAU. He's gone to the school. He has served as a resource for our people. If you got a question, give me a call. So it's been helpful.
Terrific.
Could you copy the efficiency committee on any emails that you send?
I don't. Hopefully they'll watch this tomorrow and learn that we really are working on this. So,
Thank you for doing that.
you're welcome.
Is there a motion regarding the resignation?
Oh, yeah, we have to do that part, don't we?
Yep.
I'll make a motion to accept the resignation of Daniel Seuss
I'll
and
se-
wish him well.
I'll second that.
Discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. No nominations?
Nope.
Manifest?
Oh, hey, that's my job.
No, you're slowing us down. Sorry, I'm getting punchy.
All right, I make a motion to accept the total of all manifests in the amount of $1,037,928.78. That took all my brain power. to
I'll
do
second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Calendar. Bingo is Saturday the 15th. We spoke about winter concerts at the junior senior high school on Wednesday the 12th. Bring a can for admission. The 13th at the elementary school. Any other December meetings to note?
Linda or Jim, could you remind us when the budget committee, their meeting?
Yeah. On the 10th.
That's
On-
town.
The 10th is though for town matters.
Oh, I'm
Okay.
sorry, yeah, I'm sorry.
You just have to be there.
You sent an
so-
email today, but I didn't look at it.
I
Did you look
believe
at
it's
it?
the 13th, I want to say the 13th.
You mean the
You mean the
15th?
15th? I haven't got
Yes, I mean the
confirmation.
15th.
It's a Saturday.
Is-
Oh,
are they doing
darn.
the same?
Oh, hold
I
on.
haven't heard
Hold on.
finalized
I
that
c-
it was the 15th
Hold on, I
yet.
think I have it.
Yeah. He sent an email, but I didn't get to it today,
Thought it
so I
was-
don't know.
I can't go.
14th, 15th, 17th were the possible dates, I thought. Where's it?
Was it 17 and 19?
Or 17, 19?
I don't know.
I just shut down.
We were looking at possible dates. Earlier, it had been the 15th and the 17th, and emails were swirling around alternative dates, trying to avoid a Saturday meeting.
Yeah.
No, I think the Saturday is on, but let me, I'm sorry. Keep going, and I'll.
All right,
I'll
what
get back
other
to you.
one?
Well, are there any other
December.
December items of note?
No. Teacher workshop day tomorrow, no school.
Set a date.
Friday, the 21st is a full day, right? It's not like a half day or anything?
Yeah, it's full day.
Yeah, okay. January.
We're in school on the 1st.
What's that?
Be.
I didn't think we were in school on the 1st.
No, we're not.
No, it's a holiday.
Well, it just doesn't say
Doesn't list
school
it.
vacation, so
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I was kind of like, just making sure.
Christine, you just show up and
I don't get a
You
bonus
have
point for
to work.
that.
you get bonus points, yeah.
If there anyone else to award them here that day.
Right. Somebody has to verify that you were
I'm
here.
making it national holiday. So we don't have to-
I won't be at the January 3rd board meeting.
Okay.
I have surgery on the 2nd, so I don't think I'll be
Yeah.
ready.
Yeah.
Good luck.
That's not good news.
We will miss you.
Well, I wish you a speedy recovery,
Oh, thanks.
Yes,
Yeah, it's all
absolutely.
good, but yeah,
because you're going to
just-
come back to the best part.
Yeah.
All right, so budget committee dates. If you
Just
could
send
just
them
send
to
an
us.
email.
Yeah, once it's confirmed, I will do that.
I'm
I just-
fairly
It hadn't
certain
been
it's.
confirmed, which is why I
I'm
hadn't
fairly
sent
certain
anything
it's
out.
the 13th and the 15th.
And then we had 17th originally scheduled.
Yeah.
So I think it was 13, 15, 17.
All right. Look, I'll look at it tomorrow, and if it's clear, I'll email it.
Okay.
Okay, I don't
Okay.
know why, I don't know where that disappeared to.
All right, do we have need to go into non-public this evening?
No.
Mr. Chair, before you move on, can we just acknowledge
He's lovely.
these lovely ornaments?
Yeah.
Just to thank the.
Yes.
This was, yes, a gift for all of you from the children of LinkedIn.
Linked together?
Linked together, I mean.
Great.
Linked together, yep,
Newmarket's Little Elves.
yeah.
It's very thoughtful.
We all have our
Yeah.
own little quote, too. I like that.
Yeah,
These are terrific.
Thank
Those are
you,
cute.
Ree.
aren't they adorable?
They're great.
I don't, you have them. I don't-
All right,
I haven't
any
seen
other business?
We don't have
Motion
any
to
down here.
adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Signify by saying
Aye.
Thanks very much.
You're a trooper.
Sorry to keep you
Yeah,
so
you
late.
are.